To really grasp the gravity of what happened, we've got to understand the atmosphere of the time. The historical sources paint a super tense picture. Picture this. The leaders of the Quraysh, the really powerful, ruling tribe of the region, are sitting right near the Kaaba. They held absolute authority. And they had imposed this terrifying, suffocating rule where everyone lived in total fear of reciting the Quran in front of them. The source material is crystal clear on this. Stepping into the streets of Makkah back then to speak the truth or share the message of the Quran, that was considered a massive, life-threatening danger. The air was just thick with intimidation. The establishment wanted total silence, and they had the physical force to guarantee it.
Now, what's really interesting here is this stark, almost impossible contrast. On one side, you've got the collective, overwhelming power of the Quraysh leaders. They have the numbers, the political control, the wealth, and the capacity for immediate violence. But on the other side, you have a single, solitary figure, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Looking at this logically, it's a complete mismatch, right? One man stepping out against an entire ruling class that has already promised severe punishment for anyone who even dares to speak. It really begs the question, how does one person even begin to find the nerve to stand up against that kind of overwhelming institutional intimidation?
Well, the absolutely crucial element here is a concept known as tawakkul, complete trust in Allah. The historical account tells us that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud didn't rely on physical weapons. He didn't have a secret army backing him up. Instead, he relied completely on a higher power. And this is the very essence of our focus today, the profound power behind trusting a higher power. It essentially acts like invisible armor. When someone relies entirely on that spiritual foundation, it provides this unshakable inner strength that can literally override the natural human instinct of physical fear. It was exactly this deep, unwavering trust that allowed him to confidently step forward and walk directly toward the Kaaba, right into the heart of the danger zone.
And here's the dramatic climax of that sequence. He didn't just whisper it. The sources tell us he began to recite Surah Ar-Rahman in a loud, beautiful, and totally resolute voice. Just imagine that moment. The leaders are sitting right there, enforcing their ironclad rule of silence, and suddenly the air is filled with the beautiful recitation of the exact text they forbade. The people standing around were absolutely stunned. They stood there listening in sheer amazement. For a brief moment, the immense power and beauty of his brave recitation entirely shattered that heavy atmosphere of fear the Quraysh had worked so hard to build.
But of course, the shock eventually wore off, and the brutal reality snapped right back. The immediate reaction from the Quraysh leaders was just explosive, sheer anger. They descended on him. The historical accounts confirm they attacked him, and he had to endure a severe physical beating right there on the spot. But honestly, here is the most astounding part of the whole sequence. Despite those heavy blows, despite the intense physical agony, he responded with immense patience. He didn't fight back with his fists, and he certainly didn't run away. He just patiently continued his recitation right through the beating.
At the absolute core of his resilience was this fact: he never stopped sharing the word of Allah despite the immense physical suffering he was put through. The Quraysh really thought they could silence him through pain, but they completely miscalculated. Why? Because his strength wasn't physical, it was deeply spiritual. The sources highlight this event as a prime example of his profound love for the Quran. The physical pain inflicted on his body simply could not break his spiritual resolve, and it couldn't stop his voice. His trust in Allah was acting as a shield for his spirit, even as his body took the hits.
That brings us to the golden takeaway of this entire explainer. It's beautifully summarized in a verse from the Quran, chapter 65, verse 3. Whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. This is the exact spiritual mechanic that was at work in the streets of Mecca that day. Now, sufficient here doesn't mean you won't face physical hardship. I mean, as we clearly saw, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud faced terrible physical pain. What it actually means is that when you truly rely on a higher power, you are given exactly the internal strength, the patience, and the courage you need to endure whatever the world throws at you. The spiritual support is completely enough to carry you through the physical trial.